Hello, you're listening to The Popcorn Conspiracy on CentralCoastRadio.com. I'm your host Kyle, and I'd just like to talk a little bit about a movie that I saw called Mafia Mama. Now, in it's about a the aftermath of a mafia rivalry which erupts in a violent bloodshed in Italy. Now, in the aftermath of the carnage, the dons of both the Balbano and the Romano crime family lay amongst the dead. Now, Don Giuseppe Balbano's consigliere, the sultry Bianca, played by Monica Bellucci, she knows that in her heart this is going to mean war. So she seeks out Balbano's chosen heir, his granddaughter. Now, his granddaughter is called Kristen, but she's actually living in America, thousands of kilometers away, and has no idea of her grandfather's heritage because of just how far removed she was from that side of her family. Now, she's a middle aged woman who's currently going through empty nest syndrome. Her son has just moved away to college, and her good for nothing layabout husband, Paul, played by Tim Dash, uh, has been caught cheating. Now, Kirsten, played by Tony Collette, uh, she's unappreciated at work as well. She's looked down upon by the men that work with her, thinking that she just can't do what a man can do. Now, through pretty much perfect timing, she gets the call from Bianca, and before she knows it, she's jetting off to Italy to go to her grandfather's funeral. Now, her grandfather's funeral is attacked by gunfire, and quickly she learns that Giuseppe's final wish was for her to actually take on the role of Mafia Don, and uh, that's pretty much what Bianca is seeing to. She's seeing to her boss's final wishes. So Kirsten, despite having no idea what she's doing, she's a she's an American housewife, but now she's actually the head of this massive Italian crime syndicate. And it's her job to actually bring peace to this long held war that has erupted into violent bloodshed. Now, it's obviously a comedy, and when I first heard about Mafia Mama, or the concept of it, I admit I was actually kind of excited to see it. The trailers, it reminded me quite a lot of uh, like those silly like high concept comedies that you saw in the 90s and the early 2000s, and we don't really see those movies that much anymore. Like kind of movies like King Ralph or Corky Romano, those kind of really silly, like someone like fish out of water kind of deals. Blue Streak, those kind of things. You don't really see them nowadays. They're not quite as popular. So I was interested in it for that concept alone, but also director Catherine Hardwicke, who most people would know from her work with Twilight, and also having Toni Collette and Monica Bellucci both teaming up, kind of in what seemed to be sort of a buddy picture between the two of them. I'm a fan of both actresses, so I was really excited to see them in a movie together. And also the fact that this in Australia got an MA rating, that kind of piqued my interest because I was curious of, yeah, just like how surprising this movie would be. I really like the kind of concept that it is doesn't really lend itself very well to an MA rating. So I was interested to see what the movie was like. Unfortunately, I was really disappointed by it. Those other comedies, King Ralph, Corky Romano, really silly, lowbrow comedies that aren't really looked at as the high end of cinema. This movie fails, I think, to live up to even them. The synopsis I gave at the beginning that's basically the entire plot of the movie. There isn't really much more to it. It's excruciatingly simple, I think is the best way to put it. That there's no other level to it. Like wanting I kept wanting there to be some kind of twist or something that would explain why anybody would think it was a good idea having this middle-aged woman running a mob family. But other than the undercurrent of this storyline of empowerment, which is obviously what they're going for, there's no reason given, because there's no logic in this movie whatsoever. And if it was funnier, I would be okay with that. But the problem is kind of a there's often tonal inconsistencies. Like it's you can explain away a plot not making much sense if the movie is just a complete farcical comedy. It would be fine. But this movie tries to be serious at times, and because of that, it doesn't work. A major problem with the tone of the movie is that MA rating, which I was so excited for at first. How that's implemented in this movie, because it never takes itself seriously, it completely is not suited to such a high rating, which is how that comes across is, of course, there's some swearing here or there, but the violence in this movie is, I would say, off-putting for who I believe most of the audience for this film would be. I think most people would consider the violence in this movie to be heavily excessive. It would be kind of like if Wayne's World had Hostel or Saw level violence in it. Like the gore in this film is just torture porn levels of extreme, and it's really only for a couple of scenes, and it's so out of touch with the rest of the movie that it's just kind of I kept wondering, like, who the hell is this movie even made for? Because I don't know, I think a lot, like, in the screening that I went to, people got up and left at that point. Like, that was just, it was so over the top. Me, whatever, I've seen worse than that. But like, I don't think that the audience that this movie is really best aimed at is going to really be accepting of that kind of level of violence and gore. Um, yeah, I think because of that kind of that clash between tones. I mean, well, the comedy in the movie is just not really up to snuff. It's not. It's like there's no logic in the movie as far as anything, the way anything happens, the way any characters react to anything. But at the same time, the comedy isn't that witty. I think that's the biggest problem in this movie, even beyond the violence aspect, is that it's just not at all witty for a comedy. There's a joke that keeps getting repeated throughout the movie about Kirsten not having seen the Godfather movies, and it's funny. It's kind of amusing. Like there are funny moments in this movie, but I actually kind of got the feeling myself that the people that made this movie hadn't seen the Godfather movies or Goodfellas or Sopranos or Gomorrah or any other Mafia, La Cosa Nostra movies of the last 20, 30 years. Because just the humor in this movie, as far as the whole organized crime aspect, it was all stuff that we've seen done to death, like jokes that have been made 100 times before. They just weren't that quick. They weren't that witty, and I guess just because of that, like I just didn't find myself laughing at all throughout the movie. But at the same time, it is supposed to be a comedy, so that that kind of really hurts. And I think that for it to be, it is this completely ridiculous comedy, but it sees itself as inspiring. And the problem is, like, of course, the story of a woman doing what other men tell her that she can't do, like that's a positive message. That's a positive That's a positive idea to go for. But Mafia Mama betrays itself because it's so ridiculous in the scenarios that Kristen finds herself in and how she finds her way out of them, pretty much fumbling her way to the top of the Mafia world. Because of that, it's hard to then take that serious that, oh wow, look, she's so inspiring. It's hard to take that as a serious growth of a character because the movie is just so ridiculous and not serious that when it tries to be serious, it completely falls on its flat. Completely falls flat on its face. Sorry. So it is kind of hard to recommend Mafia Mama to any crowd specifically. Like I consider myself to be a fan of like comedy movies and mafia films. I'm a fan of Tony Collette and Monica Bellucci, and Tony Collette. I think a lot of the comedy in this movie really only works because of Tony Collette, because of her abilities as her charisma as an actress. I think that's the only reason that a lot of the comedy in this movie works. Monica Bellucci, I it's unfortunate. I just don't think that she's very good in this. Mainly, I don't know. I think that she would have worked. The two of these actors would have worked really well together as Tony Collette kind of being like the silly comedy character and Monica Bellucci being the straight character. But it gets to a point that every character in this movie is ridiculous and silly, even Monica Bellucci's character. And so because that's the same reason of why the whole empowerment thing doesn't really work that well because nothing you can't take anything seriously. So even just the dynamic between the two of them kind of feels a bit warped at times. It just doesn't just the pair up I guess wasn't really what I was hoping for. Um so yeah, just I guess I think maybe about like again, of course, I'm a man, so I think like a group of women going to the movies for a fun time together, like they would probably enjoy this movie, like a hands night or something like that. I'm sure that women would enjoy this movie in a group where their shared company would actually be the main source of their amusement. But I don't think that it's a very good comedy, and I don't think it's a particularly witty satire of mafia films. So yeah, I'm gonna have to give this just 1.5 out of 5. So yeah, quite disappointed in it, and yeah, that's it. 1.5 out of 5. I don't know. Give it a shot. Maybe you'll find it a lot more enjoyable than I did. So you're listening to the Popcorn Conspiracy on CentralCoastRadio.com, and we'll be back right after this.